Okay, so welcome to the Basic Web Developer course primer. Of course, I am Kevin Koop, and I'm here with Jerry Humphrey. And
Hi, everyone.
yeah, and we are going to do our best to give you a really solid foundation today, just in regards to the basic elements that you need as a web developer, and some of the requirements that you'll need, of course, as you go through this course. Some of the basic course necessities. We would recommend that you have a pad of paper or whatever your favorite note-taking device is to take notes on. I think that's going to be very helpful for you both during the webinar and as we go through the course. A hosting account. You will not need a hosting account for any of the HTML and CSS portions, but you will need a hosting account most likely when we get to the WordPress section. So if you don't already have a hosting account, don't run out and get one until we discuss hosting, and we'll do that right here in the side of this webinar. You will also need a domain name, an FTP client. If you're not familiar with what FTP is and what an FTP client is, it's simply just a piece of software that allows you to move files from your computer to your hosting account. So you can either upload files from your hosting account, or from your computer rather, to your hosting account, download files from your hosting account or from your server. We'll get into some of the vernacular. When we talk about your hosting account, what we're really talking about is the actual server, the place that is holding your website files. You have the ability to transfer files basically from and to your computer to your server with the piece of software which is referred to as an FTP client. FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol. It's basically just the way that files are transferred to servers. Just a quick aside in regards to FTP clients. We are going to be demonstrating the use of a particular FTP client called FileZilla, and you'll see that here during this webinar. We're going to discuss some of the most used items. We're going to give a tour of the file manager and just talk about its basic use, and then also the same thing with FTP, File Transfer Protocol, the piece of software that we talked about that allows you to do a bunch of things, not just uploading and downloading of files, but you can do other things as well, and we'll talk about those right now. Let's see here. Get out of this. We'll just open up HostGator again. So over at HostGator, let's go just firstly to web hosting. I just wanted to point this out before we get running. Under the regular shared hosting plans, you'll see that there's one that's called Hatchling, one that's called the Baby Plan, and one that's called the Business Plan. You look at these rates, and please note that there's an asterisk by these. These are only if you're buying them an extended amount of time. If you pay monthly, the pricing is noticeably different. Some people get confused by that. So if we just look at monthly hosting, not letting me choose that. Oh, all right. Sorry about that. Okay, so if we're just looking at it on a monthly basis, you'll see now the difference between, $7.16, 80 cents more over here, and a few dollars more, actually $4 more for the business plan. The difference between these, the real reason why I would recommend out of these that you don't use either the Hatchling or the Baby is the dedicated or private IP address. You'll see that it says over here that you get free private SSL, which we'll talk about sometime later, secured socket layer certificates, and you also get a free private IP address. It's the first account inside of HostGator, if you decide to use them as your host, that you can get a free IP or a free dedicated IP address included. They do allow you to buy additionally a dedicated IP on some other plans. I don't know if the Hatchling plan does. I know the Baby plan does. And they charge you like $2 more additionally per month. So if you do have an existing account running on the Baby plan, you decide that you want to have a little bit of extra protection, having a dedicated IP address, then you can update your account, pay a couple of dollars extra, leave everything exactly right where it is and get a dedicated IP as opposed to the shared IP address that we basically cautioned you against earlier. We'll send out links for these resources, but again, I've been with a lot of different hosts. Right now, all of my stuff except for one particular, no, I take that back. I have two. I have special SEO hosting elsewhere, and I have one account over at Midphase, but almost everything I have is over at HostGator at the moment. That being said, Jerry uses and recommends Liquid Web, and more than likely, because I wholeheartely trust Jerry and his recommendations, I'll more than likely be getting a dedicated server over at Liquid Web in the near future, and probably be moving most of my business properties over to Liquid Web. The real reason, there was probably a lot of reasons, but just to make this succinct, one of the real reasons that Jerry recommends Liquid Web over HostGator is really the level of support. Now, I have had typically pretty good luck with support over at HostGator. It hasn't been perfect, but pretty good. But Liquid Web is much more customer centric. So you get higher level techs, typically this is coming from Jerry's firsthand experience, and they're much more helpful basically. I guess we didn't point out, I skipped over a couple of small things, but not that they're small. When you're looking at hosting accounts, make sure that they have 24/7 support. And I would also recommend that you check how they can be connected or how they can be contacted as far as support. Do they have live chat, which appears Liquid Web does? You know, can you call them on the phone? Can you email them, etc.? HostGator has all those availabilities. You can call them on the phone 24 hours a day. You can start a live chat. You can, send email, etc. There's multiple different ways to contact with support. And again, like I said, their support is 24/7. The last thing in the world that you want is to have run into an issue with either your site or the site of a client at some inopportune hour, only to find out that the host doesn't have support available at the time that you're running into issues. And to be quite honest, there are plenty of hosts out there that do not have 24/7 support. And to me, that would be a complete deal breaker. If they didn't have 24/7 support, I wouldn't even consider using them as a host. You agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's a major hosting company that's out there that we've actually mentioned earlier that you have no live interactive support unless you want to pay for it. You want to make a phone call, it's $10. You want to make live chat, I believe it's also $10. You want all you're allowed to do is post a ticket in their support system and wait for them. And to me, when you have a client yelling, "Why is my site down?" and things like that, it's your name that's on the line. So, find somebody that's got a good range of ways to connect.
Okay.
I use Liquid Web because I was on the phone with them December 25th, midnight, setting up my new site, and the guy was there helping me. They had a full staff online, and they always do. So that's why I've been sticking with Liquid Web.
All right, so I have other resources open. I'm going to skip those. Looking at the time, we need to definitely move over to the next phase, which is talking about cPanel and giving you a tour and covering the most used items. So I'm going to open up a new browser, Chrome, because I already have it open. You see right now we've got kcsdev2.info, just a demo installation of our Local Biz Pro WordPress theme. We're going to get into the back end of the cPanel for this site, and that's where we are now. So I'll pause here just for a minute, make sure that the GoToWebinar screen has populated for you. This is, you're looking at a cPanel control panel. This is inside of my HostGator reseller account. It is, in effect, a shared account. Even though it is a reseller account, there's multiple different reseller accounts inside of the same box. But this is an account that was added on inside of the reseller account such that it gets its own unique control panel. And this is, I guess I should just make quick mention of this. This is one of the reasons why I would never recommend, while it can be done from a technical standpoint, I really recommend that you never add on a domain into a regular shared account and then try to sell that to a client. Because if they ever request or require cPanel access, not only do they get access to theirs, they also get access to yours and anything else that's on there. And that's just dangerous. So my suggestion to you is each client's account should have its own unique control panel, and the login information should allow them to get access to that area and to no other. So you'll see a quick mention. Again, I told you that this is what you're looking at is HostGator reseller account, but while many the cPanel look basically will be similar, you may or may not see the exact same thing for a variety of reasons. Each hosting account or each server has the ability to be set up differently, so your hosting company will determine what features of cPanel you do or do not get. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that there's what they call cPanel themes. If you look right here, it's kind of small, but you see it says cPanel 11. And this is the particular version of cPanel. There's also themes. This is cPanel Accelerated 2, but there's like X3 and these different cPanel themes that will cause the actual look and feel to be different. So just FYI, even within cPanel, there are some amount of variations. You may or may not find things exactly like this when you get to your own hosting account. On the left-hand side, before we get into all these different options, I'm going to expand the stats. And this is one thing that I think a lot of people miss. There's a small amount of stats here by default. It's telling me the main domain for the account, where my home directory is, where my root directory is for this particular hosting account, what IP address last logged in, how much disk space usage I'm currently using, and what I'm currently allotted. So I'm using currently right now only 32.74 megabytes out of 1,024 megabytes allotted to this account, so basically 1 gig of disk space. It's also telling me monthly bandwidth transfer, how much am I using and how much am I allotted. If I click the expand stats, you'll see that there's a number of other values that show up, including how many email accounts, subdomains, etc. This account is pretty much bare. You can see right here, it's telling me the cPanel theme is X3, which is causing how it looks. It's telling me that this server is running the Apache software and what version it is, what version of PHP it's running, what version of the MySQL database it's running, etc. So if you're looking for those values, this is the information you need to look for. You're also looking over here to the dedicated IP address. What IP address is dedicated to this account? And if you ever needed to know that information, it's right there as well. So with that, over here are all of your cPanel options. One thing to note is that these can be moved. So you'll more than likely find that inside of cPanel, there's only certain areas that you typically go to again and again and again, and that might be email setup, and it might be database setup, etc. You can move these simply by hovering over these bars, left clicking, and then holding down your mouse and then dragging them around. So if you didn't want preferences at the top, if you wanted it somewhere else, you can just click it, and you'll see that those dash box show up and drag them. All right, so that's enough about that. You just basically have the ability to drag them. In the top area, I'll just point out that with HostGator, they do have quite a lot of video tutorials, and you can access them either from the front end of HostGator. You don't have to get into your cPanel to get to them. But if you are inside of your cPanel and you ever have a question, you can get to the video tutorials right inside your cPanel. The only other thing that we'll point out in this area is just the change password functionality. If I click on it, oops, logged me out. All right.
a man walks into the bar and says, ouch. Okay, there's my joke. Somebody asked for that joke before, so.
Really?
Yes, they want to know if I knew any good jokes, and I basically said that, and they said, oh, so you mean no. So.
All right. So now that I've logged back in, it basically ended my session. So it took me to the change password area. Just know that this is the ability for you to change your cPanel password. So if your cPanel password is not really, really strong,